Hi. Front's looking a little bit more complete now. The tubes that were needed to be replaced, most of them have been replaced now. So we have this is new, and the thing goes on. Really around these have all been replaced now, so this is the structure back in. We've started to build up around the dash. I couldn't quite get the V that I wanted from the centre here all the way up to right in the corner. The power steering was the main controller for that one. I could have pushed the air conditioning a little bit further over that way to give me a little bit more angle, but nice to keep that dead central. For the 4 vents, nice to keep the centre of there roughly central, so I don't have to worry about skewing anything, excuse my French, skewing everything left or right. That is pretty much in the centre. It's pushed over at the moment because here's a big gap here. The power steering unit, I don't want to bring any further forward than it already is. It's quite nicely there. There's a nice air gap everywhere around here, so it's not too close. It's nice and free. So we settled on that. I could have pushed it forward a little bit more, but I was quite happy where it was there. So I have last thing to do at the moment. I've got my little adapter plate which moves the original 2 holes that are mounted at the back here over 12mm, because now we're putting a centre console in. Basically I have to push the driver this way by about 1 inch or so, so I've moved the column over 1/2 inch. That's one mod I'd forgotten to do, so I need to cut them out and build a new section for that. I might just cut this tube out completely. It's just probably just as easy to chop this one out and put a brand new one in with the pieces in the right place. So one last bit to cut out. Now we have a structure back in. We have that plane here, which has got, triangulated. So we've got the structure back in there. I just put the just been notching out a bit of a combination angle. It's a real pain in the proverbial. It took me an hour just to do that, just to do those couple of joints. But now we have a mounting tube. Couldn't go directly over there flat, direct to it, yet again, because the steering joint was going to be too close. There's about 6mm of clearance all the way around that joint now to where it is here. News as far as the car is concerned, I have definitely junked the shock tower outboard shock absorber position. Let's grab my dummy shock absorber. Instead of having it here, we are going to go inboard. I thought it was pointless going this far without doing it, so pretty much we're going to have 2 shock absorbers mounted in line to that tube. So if you actually do a centerline access to that through the shock absorber, the forces will go straight back into here, and then we'll have the other one here. So I will have to build a rocker mechanism bracket here. I've done the dims for the rocker already. I've got to design the actual shape itself, but I've done the dims for the dimension for the pivot point to the pickup point. Obviously make sure the push rod misses this on full droop to full drop to full bounce bump. Make sure the bracket itself also misses this curve. It'd be nice if this was lower, but hey ho, kind of everything. And then point the shock absorber to make sure that I get a rising rate angle. So I start at a higher or less than 90 degrees, and I work to 90 degrees. So basically, accelerating the shock, so it becomes a rising rate. So I've managed to do that. Can't manage to get a full 4 inches of travel wheel to 4 inches travel of shock, but I have managed to get 4 inches of wheel travel to equate to 3 inches of shock travel. So that's about as good as I can. It's about as good as you're going to get. So the shocks are underdriven by 25%, whereas the rear shocks I can actually get a 1-to-1. But that's the thing. So obviously we're putting now the weight of the car it's going to slightly pull on here because they've got the pushing up here, but also we're putting a tugging load on here. We're trying to basically compress and push this depending on how the car's rolling. So you know, as the top there, these were CDS, these are 120 wall. You can see the wall thickness is there is 3.1. So is this side. Obviously the connecting bar between the two will probably be put in some form of compression load if the car, say, has a rapid if I start going up a hill, or if a car, you know, goes light and then smashes back on the ground, then this is into compression load. So this beam here also is a 120 thou. So we have strongness here, so basically, or strength here, sorry, bloody hell, my English is horrible. We have a compression tube here that isn't going to buckle. What we are going to get though is a load down on here. Now there isn't any loads been put into that part of the chassis before, so we need to do some triangulation to move the load back into the rest of the chassis. So if we get a positive load down that way, the bracket that'll go to mount two shock absorbers will obviously be, I shall gusset here to here, and I shall gusset from here to here, and then I'll put a horizontal gusset there as well to try and take a little bit of the any twisting load there might be in this member. But we need to take that load and transfer it back to something more solid. So basically we've come, you know, gusset from here to here, it puts the load into here, we've transferred it, married it to all around there. Then what we'll do is two diagonals from here up to the corner, here up to the corner. So we're basically putting that load back into the outer frame of the chassis, which will, you know, help no end. So inboard, that's the thing. So that's the progress the last few days. It's kind of what we're going for at the moment. Mounting points now for the power steering will come off of this bracket. I'll probably mount it off here and then just do a single point mount there, just to take any twist out, just to aid it, because you've got a single plane here. You've got a point there, so it's going to want to twist. If I come further out from the center axis, come up here and up, then it'll take out some of the twisting load in the motor and make those joints last longer. So we'll have a little, probably a little bucket here to a bolt, and then a stabilizer bar there. This will obviously have brackets. You can see at the moment where this is the AC unit is attached to the wood at the moment, but we'll have bracket to come off of here to mount the AC itself. So this will partially mount that, but also mount the AC. Also thinking of a few other things. Kind of a footrest for the driver, which is what's going to come up here. So I'll probably put a tube, probably from down in the bottom, but bias it to the passenger side and bring it up to here. If anything, just to make it easy to make a footrest. Obviously I want to keep this area here free so I can come up inside. I want to keep this area free because that's where the wiper motor sits. So, but you know, we're back on now. Laser cut part, the water cut parts for the pickup points here and here. I don't want to send them off quite yet because I've got to. I'm going to design the bracket to hold both the shock absorber in here. So what I'll do is I'll have them cut at the same time as those and those. And the next thing there, you can see the pedal box. If you look on this side, that's the original suspension mounting point, but as soon as we went to the 06 offset wheels, I moved all the suspension out. So we've dropped it down 2mm and we've come out 32mm. So moving that further out to here, let's see on this side, has allowed me to put an ordinary style master cylinder back in for the clutch, which is save having to have a fancy pivot for the clutch unit. I can now actually put a master cylinder in here in the normal position, albeit I've had to count it over 25 degrees to make sure that this doesn't hit any of the mounting points on the master cylinder. The pitch of these two holes now is obviously correct for the Wilwood bias system that I'm using. And the pedals are all mine, but I've bought the Wilwood bias tube and ball. So basically these are correct for that, the old pedals weren't. Plus the fact that the centerline position here to the base of the chassis is now lower than it originally was, to take advantage of the fact we're only using 3/4 box below it, whereas originally it was obviously 1.5 inches. and you couldn't lower the master cylinders any down any further. The only way you could higher the ratio of the pedals was to lift the pivot point of the pedal up. But obviously having only 3/4 of an inch there, I can now drop down the master cylinders 3/4 of an inch, which gets me my nearly 6:1 pedal ratio. So we should actually have a brake pedal that might compress slightly, which would be interesting. Give us some depth to the pedal and not just be, well, it's like pushing a brick basically. And also 6:1 of the clutch would make the clutch longer. Obviously we got a little bit more throw on the pedals, but I'd sooner have something that's, I think it's 5.9 something to 1, whereas the original stuff that we played with obviously is only 3.5. So bit of a step forward there, as you say. Also, I'll have the pedal U boxes cut up when I get the water jet cutting. I've got to build a gusset into here and a gusset into here, and then I've got to build the steering rack mounts here and here. So we've got plenty of stuff to getting on with still. But hopefully I'll have the water jet cut stuff next week, so we can have pretty much the front suspension done. Once that's done, then I'll start mucking up for stocking up for suspension. I've already drilled the hole, which is the theoretical point for the front wishbones. Grab the thing. Here we go. Scooby-Doo. There we go. That's the spherical joint for the outer lower wishbone. Basically, to find the correct hole. There we go. And then I'll just build the wishbones and situ to the car. So I could build a jig and blah blah blah, which I probably will do eventually. But at the moment, first prototype, what the hell? I'll just leave it as it is. The position of that now is almost perfect. All I've got to do is cut this aluminium washer to put a rake in the outer part of that joint. I think it's about 3 degrees. I need to rake back so it splits the. Obviously, you've got the caster of the wheel as it spins. Having the joint horizontal is really not going to be an advantage. So I can split half the caster angle and then run it like that. So it's coming on. Just leaps and bounds. Hopefully now, if I keep going this way, trying to get the chassis all finished, pedals, suspension. From here forward, I don't have to worry about it. I can put the mounting points for the lower piece, but for the rest of it, I'm not too fussed at the moment. Anyway, it's me rabbiting on. Okay, speak to you soon.